awesomeness. Taiyaki at your cat for unintentional awesomeness. Hello, my beautiful bandits.
They just don't know it. Hit him from behind. Stop looking at me. Attack! Save it for the enemy. We've lost control of a command post.
So our crow's OP. What bird do you think is the most overpowered bird? Because I would have assumed something like a falcon or maybe a vulture or condor or some one of the huge ones.
Incredible advanced techniques such as tool use, coordinated team strategies, and even bartering and trade. But primates are not the only faction in the game with a high intelligence stat. Cetacean, cephalopod, and bird mains also commonly opt not to spec into powerful damage dealing abilities and instead invest into leveling up their brain power skill tree.
Well, yeah, birds can't be super powerful because they can't be too heavy or they won't fly.
Direct 1v1 combat. In actuality, this often results in a much less risky playthrough, as the player's intelligence opens up more options for them to progress that don't require winning in combat. This is especially
Sneaky
true
monkey.
of the bird faction, as their ability to fly already allows them to quickly escape most unfavorable combat encounters.
Aw,
Today,
Kato,
we're discussing
you let
one
the
of
bird
two
steal your
main
fish.
Intelligence-centered bird builds. The faction that
It might be
contains
crows. They're pretty
ravens,
smart.
and magpies.
Crows are, that is true. Crows are pretty smart.
This video is going to focus mostly on crows as an example, but
I once
generally, what I
hit
say
a
in this
crow
video
out of the
should apply to
sky.
most corvids. First, let's
Crows, I'm convinced that crows have generational knowledge. Because there was one time I was walking to work, and it was like during hatching season when crows, you know, their babies are hatching and they get very territorial. And this crow was every day when I was walking to work, and then at the end of the day walking home from work, this crow would like dive bomb my head. And anyone else walking in that area, that crow would just attack them. And one morning when I was walking up to work, I was going up the stairs, and I saw the crow coming, and I threw a punch at it. And I thought the crow would be smart and like swerve out of the way. But the crow decided to play a really serious game of chicken with my fist. And I ended up hitting the crow and knocked it out of the sky. It's the only time I've ever managed to punch a bird. But the crow was fine. It was just shocked, and it like got up and hopped up on a fence and stared at me. But after that, the crow never attacked me. And for the next, I think 4 years that I was still in that area, every year when the crows were like hatching their babies and whatnot, I would hear the crows around cawing at people and flying around dive bombing people, but they never came after me again. 4 generations of crows knew not to fly at me. I mean, I am a cat. I do have the reflexes to hit a bird every once in a while.
let's discuss their stats.
But yeah,
as well
crows
as the
can have
abilities and
generational
strategies that
knowledge.
Exemplify them. We'll begin with their stealth stat, which corvids aren't particularly excellent in. The most popular corvid skins are either jet black or piebald, neither of which grant the user that strong of a stealth bonus.
I mean, he'd be
In
good at
fact, in
night,
snowy
but
areas, jet black feathers are actually one of the least effective choices when trying to remain hidden.
yeah, that's true. You're not hiding in snow if you're
Most
black.
effective as camouflage at night, but crows and other corvids are not nocturnal builds, so they
You
aren't really
just
gaining
got the
benefit
platinum in
from it.
Tekken? Nice, congrats.
Now, granted, stealth
You wanna
isn't
befriend
all
crows
that
in
important
Japan?
for birds, given how agile and
The crows where I live are freaking huge. The crows in my part of Japan, I'm assuming Japanese crows are big burbs. They're smart and they're very big.
vigilant they are. Plenty of other high
Like the crows back in the States where I grew up were pretty small and skinny, but these things are like,
birds in the game.
they're
They do just
big
fine.
burbs. I
You
was
can argue
shocked.
that corvids are even less stealthy than their black feathers initially appear, as their iridescence actually makes them even easier to see for certain other players.
The
Typically
shiny
birds.
variant.
Ultimately, I think it's safe to say stealth is not an important part of their game plan. At least nowhere near as important as it is for ambush predator builds like an owl.
Yeah,
The
these
main
burbs
predator
don't care about
we need to
stealth. They're
worry
like,
about are raptors.
I'm gonna beat you,
because
and I'm
of
gonna let you
raptors'
see me
keen
do it.
eyesight ability, it's unlikely having a higher stealth stat would make much of a difference anyway. The crow's defense and constitution stats are fairly average for a bird, which is to say not great. Birds have hollow bones, and their feathers offer fairly little in terms of defense. Feathers do absorb sun blunt force damage, but
No
when it comes
armor
to
for the
slashing and
burbs.
piercing damage, it's nearly useless. And because of their hollow bones, which make them more vulnerable to blunt force damage, the benefit there
Eagles,
casts
owls, and
out.
crows have generational beef.
Snakes, cats,
It's
raccoons,
hilarious.
Raptors, and frogs all have a high chance of taking a crow out in one hit.
If they big those ain't crows, those are ravens.
Given that their playstyle necessitates
Admittedly, I don't
some
know enough
risk,
to tell
pro
the
players
difference.
definitely wish they had more room for error. Thankfully, their next stat makes it pretty easy to avoid damage. The crow's mobility is a little above average for a mid-sized bird, which is to say, excellent.
Ooh, they got the
Crows
dex
in
build.
general are just extremely agile, both on the ground and in the air, making them extremely hard to land an attack on if they see you coming. Some bird builds, like geese and junglefowl, require significant startup in order to get airborne, meaning that they can't rely on their flight to escape danger if the danger is already right in front of them. Crows are not one of these bird builds, and in contrast, the startup on their flight move has some shockingly broken frame data, and allows them to quickly and easily reposition themselves in basically any direction
Matrix
in space
burb.
almost instantly. This
Crows
makes their
apparently
ability
have
to
the
dodge attacks one of the best in the
instant
entire game.
invincibility frames on their
Makes what
dodge
are normally
mechanic.
fairly dangerous positions, such as right next to a powerful predator, quite safe as long as the Corvid doesn't use any laggy moves. This synergizes well with the Corvid's combat moveset, as we'll discuss.
So when
in a moment.
homie dropped
Corvids are
the vid,
blessed
I
with
was so
many
hyped.
high stats,
You
but power
enjoy
is not one of
the
them.
company of smart
Their
animals?
ability to deal
Ah,
damage
nice.
is one of the weakest in their weight class, as their only attack option is a
Cool.
simple pecking strike. This move has quick startup and very little end lag, but its damage is egregiously low. Simply attacking with this move will deal minimal damage to anything larger than an insect.
Zero
Most
damage.
players will be able to ignore this attack's damage. However, this doesn't mean a crow's attacks are useless. It just means they've got to be clever about how they use them. A well-placed peck can provoke an attack, and if you're able to move out of the way quick enough, the enraged player will end up being forced to lash out at whoever just happens to be nearby, and create an opening for the Corvid player to capture an objective, steal some loot, or escape trouble.
They manipulate their
It might seem
opponents.
like a jank strategy, but really, this is the bread and butter of Corvid gameplay.
They can inflict the
Massive
berserk
swings in
status
range.
effect. That's
The chance to
hilarious.
inflict the enraged status effect scales with the user's intelligence stat. So the reason this strategy works so well is that the Corvid's intelligence stat is ridiculously
Aw,
high
poor
for a
cat.
primate build.
The
Corvids
crow's
at
getting the
times
cats to attack each
have the
other.
highest intelligence stat in the entire avian faction.
Not the
In
cat's
addition to
best
enabling
moment,
the
Sag.
Golden Strike moveset, having high intelligence grants Corvids access to a lot of other powerful techniques too, including the ability to use tools. Tool use is one of the most notoriously powerful abilities in the entire game. And in crows, this is no less true. By using hook-shaped wooden sticks, crows can score kills on grubs that are normally safe from everything except for woodpecker attacks. And given how many expensive niche perks woodpeckers need to spec into in order to perform these sorts of drilling attacks, the ability to bypass all of that investment while still gaining the same rewards is a huge boon to the crows.
Dang.
But high intelligence has far more benefits than just allowing crows to copy the success of hyper-specialized builds.
Wait,
Arguably,
crows
the most
understand
important benefit is
water
team
volume?
tactics. This is what allows baboons to fight
Damn,
off lions,
these
what
burbs are
allows
smarter than
snakes
I
to bring
thought.
down tarantulas, and what allows wolves to prey upon bison. When crows work together, they can capture territory and control points of interest that they'd otherwise be helpless to defend. They can
They
even
have
rescue each
decoy
other from
strats.
what would otherwise be
God
guaranteed
damn.
lethal attacks, using a tactic called mobbing. Mobbing is a strategy most commonly seen in birds, consisting of bombarding a single target with a barrage of both physical and sonic attacks. On their own, these would be easy to shrug off, but when you're getting pecked at and screeched at from all directions at once, it inflicts heavy physical and psychic damage. This is what allows social corvids, like magpies and crows, to successfully chase away predators several times their size. Ravens, on the other hand, tend not to really need the help, as they're large enough to handle most opponents one-on-one, but can still team up in order to lock down a good source of carry-on. Alternatively, they may even ally themselves with wolf players, leading them
Oh, I
to
wanna team up
targets
with a wolf.
and letting them do the work fighting off their competition before sharing in the rewards. Anyway, that's a basic overview of the Corvid build. Now let's talk about their matchups. The Corvid matchup chart is heavily dependent on how effective their goading strike and mobbing techniques are against a given target. Luckily, because of how high the Corvid's intelligence stat is, the list of targets goading strike works against is quite long. It is best against builds with lower intelligence stats. Things like vultures, things like reptiles, and things like rodents. What's more, this technique even works on one of the Corvid's two primary threats, feline builds. Deadly as cats are, they're often quite reactive and easily aggroed, so
Sad.
Goading Strike is the perfect tool to redirect their ferocity. This move is admittedly
Stop
less effective
showing the
against Corvid's
crows
other
tricking my
concern,
friends into
raptors.
attacking each other. That's just
However,
rude.
thankfully, the mobbing technique is quite effective against raptors, so for both of their main threats, the crow players have options. The only builds these techniques aren't that effective against are other high intelligence builds, such as monkeys and parrots. Because of their extremely strong social bonding and top-tier intelligence stat, parrots are highly resistant to psychic damage and do not turn on each other easily. In fact, when pestered by a corvid, they are likely to defend each other fiercely using their own, more powerful beaks and louder shrieks. One-on-one, they're fairly evenly matched, so it tends to just come down to size. But in groups, corvids tend to have difficulty forcing parrots away from an objective. As for monkeys, their higher HP allows them to more easily ignore the pecking attacks of a crow.
The monkey
They're
just does
sitting
not
there
care.
all the time by their own party members, so a crow doing it is unlikely to provoke a punishable response. Crows and parrots have an interesting dynamic. I've said in previous videos that I believe parrots to be the more viable build. They have higher dexterity with their beaks, their sonic shriek attack is incredibly effective, they're more social, and arguably more intelligent even. And yet, of the two most intelligent bird builds, there's no denying that in the city biome, corvids are much more successful. I think the reason for this is that even though parrots are indeed more powerful on their own, and are better at using most tools than crows are, crows are better at using the most important tools, other players. From provoking attacks and redirecting aggression, to using passing vehicles to deal damage for them and unlock high-value loot, corvids are the best of the best when it comes to using other builds' strengths to cover for their own shortcomings. And if the human build's dominance is any indication, co-opting the strengths of less intelligent builds is one of the strongest strategies you can possibly execute in the game. And it's
fair enough.
Corvids sit proudly in S tier. Speaking of builds with a high success rate within the city biome, another creature that thrives in cities is the centipede. With their quick, twitchy movement and flat shape, they have no trouble weaving through all of the nooks and crannies common in urban environments. This is the subject of my next video, which will be out on YouTube in a month or so. However, if you'd like to watch that video right now, you can access it a month in advance on Nebula, the sponsor of today's video. Now, many of you have heard me talk about Nebula before. It's the creator-owned
Sponsor
platform
time.
with no ads, no algorithm, no clickbait, and phenomenal content. But
Yeah, I
this
don't know
time
what
it's
Nebula
different.
is.
Nebula just underwent a massive overhaul to dramatically improve its UI, to make Nebula's premium content easier to find, and its creator list easier to sort through. We've now got categories you can quickly swipe through to get to the sorts of things you're interested in. Hey look, it's the science category. And who's on top? That's right, it's my original series, Let's Play Outside, an educational show spotlighting the individual lives of interesting animals, done in the style of a Let's Play livestream. One of the episodes
That's
I'm
cool.
most proud of features the mantispid, a fascinating
Fate sponsor?
insect that has the characteristics of
I
both
mean,
the
I hope
wasp
I can get
and the
one
mantis.
someday. That would be pretty
How
cool.
does it fare against other common garden insects? Well, you'll just have to check it out to see. I doubt many of you know this exists. It has been sort of hard to find on
Let's see,
Nebula
who would
before,
I want to
despite being
sponsor me?
exclusive to the platform. But now I really hope you give it a watch.
Taiyaki pastries.
other new
Some company that makes
categories on
taiyaki
Nebula is
pastries would be
news,
amazing.
which I find really helpful given how complicated geopolitics tends to be lately. Specifically, they have this new current events show
Duolingo.
called The War Room, which is made by the same talented people behind real-life lore and modern conflicts. Much like how the monkey's intelligence helps it avoid being used as a pawn in the crow's plan, knowledge about the defining geopolitics of our time is important to know about so that you are not provoked into a battle that you don't understand. But on a more fun note, one show I've been really enjoying is Archaeology Quest, a show where scientists compete to see who can master the art of Paleolithic survival first. If this all sounds good to you, you can sign up to Nebula using my link at nebula.tv/Tierzoo, or use the link below, which supports me directly and gets you all this amazing content for 40% off if you choose the annual plan, which adds up to as little as $2.50 a month. Thank you all so much for watching.
Yep,
Thanks again to
definitely watch
Nebula
the
for
channel.
sponsoring this video, and as always, good luck out there.
Definitely watch Tierzoo. Very entertaining little videos. I hope he does a video on like our cat's OP at some point so I can see my brethren.